Put your hand out. Well, as there's hardly anybody who knows anything about donkeys, I'm safe to talk about them myself. This is a very strange Sunday. In the old days, in the old prayer book, the 28th prayer book, last Sunday was Passion Sunday, but it didn't mention the Passion. And this Sunday was Palm Sunday, but it didn't mention the palm. So when the new prayer book came out, they put Palm Sunday and the Sunday when the Passion was read all together. So at the end of it, we're not quite sure whether we're keeping Palm Sunday or Good Friday. And that leaves the preacher with a whole lot of things that he could preach about, now that we have an hour and a quarter at our disposal. And so I thought I'd talk about donkeys. And I owe my inspiration for this sermon to Gilbert Keith Chesterton, who wrote a wonderful poem about the donkey on Palm Sunday. The story begins with the donkey being in its field. I don't know whether you know anything about donkeys, but they're rather like Episcopalians in this part of the world. They're very conservative. Their motto is, as it was in the beginning, is now, and never shall be, world without end. They don't like change. It disturbs one, you know. And so this donkey probably had plodded around this field for a very long time, enjoying itself. It had its routine, you know. And nothing changed that routine. It was fed at the right time and was left alone for the rest of the time. I resemble more and more that donkey. And then some men came. And they entered the field and they grabbed the donkey and began to push it towards the gate. Now, I don't know whether you know how stubborn donkeys are, but if they get their feet stuck in the ground, there's nothing much you can do about them. And this donkey, if it hadn't been a graced donkey, might well have refused to budge. I wondered when Father Andy proposed this joint service whether members of my congregation would budge and come here. I'm glad to see you here. But how often in our Christian lives do we just refuse to be budged? We are met with a new challenge. We are met with doing something wonderful, and it escapes us because we're stuck where we are and won't move. And these men took the donkey to where Jesus was. And it reluctantly followed along. For after all, like most of us, we expect Jesus to come to us. We don't expect to journey at all to where he is. Jesus should be there for us when we need him. We saw some of that in the gospel last Sunday when both Mary and Martha said, Lord, if you'd been here, my brother wouldn't have died. That put him in his place. We expect Jesus when we need him. Oh, Jesus, I can't do my own work. I went to church last Sunday. I should be able to do my homework. Come on, do something about it. Oh, Jesus. My arthritis is getting to me. I've paid my pledge for years. Why have I got arthritis? Oh, Jesus, I'm being called to do something special at church, but it really doesn't fit in with my calendar. Get me out of it, would you? Jesus, our servant. And yet when the donkey arrived where Jesus was, something even more extraordinary happened. The donkey was changed. The donkey had clothes put over it. And if the donkey was anything like you or anything like me, it would have shaken itself vigorously. If my skin's not good enough for them, they'll have to do without me. I don't need any extra clothing. I'm all right. Take me or leave me. That's where I am. When your priest may suggest that perhaps a note of penitence is needed in your life, how dare he talk to me like that? I'm all right. I'm good enough. And I'm just as good as anybody else in this church. And certainly as good as that priest. If not better. I don't need any clothes on me. I'm all right. But somehow the donkey allowed those clothes to be put on him. Or her. Let me read BC at this point of the service. Although a female donkey wouldn't have come up with all these objections. And then a great weight was placed on the back of this donkey. A weight the donkey had never experienced before. The weight of a man called Jesus. And the donkey could have reared and thrown Jesus off. Now this is too much. After all, I'm an Episcopalian donkey, I'm not a Baptist donkey. We can get too far with this religion, you know. I mean, I'm prepared to do all the things that the church wants me to do, including genuflect occasionally, but carry Jesus? Me? Carry Jesus? Wow. And yet the donkey plodded on with Jesus on his back. And as he plodded down the road, all of a sudden everybody started to shout, "Hooray! Wonderful!" And the donkey must have thought, my goodness, I must be a very singular donkey. Everybody's cheering me. Has there ever been a donkey like me before? And will there ever be a donkey like me again? And the donkey might have started to jump up and down and express pleasure that finally its true worth had been acknowledged. It was not being taken advantage of anymore, even though it was burdened. It was being praised. But the donkey kept its head down, for this donkey knew that the praise was for Jesus. The alleluias were for Jesus, and not for the donkey. And then the donkey took Jesus where he was to do his great work, where he was to die for you and for me. And that is the calling of every Christian, to take Jesus to where he may do his great work. As we share Jesus in our families, as we share Jesus with our friends, as we share Jesus at work, as we share Jesus not only in our lips but in our lives, by giving up ourselves to God's service and by walking before him in holiness and righteousness all our days. Remember that prayer? And so that was the calling of the donkey in the field, to take Jesus where he would do his great work, to give his life for you and for me, his life for the church and his life for the world. The donkey, like Peter and the disciples, might have said, "You don't need to go there, Jesus." Remember when Peter said that, and Jesus turned on him and said, "Get thee behind me, Satan." For in all of us is an avoidance of the inevitable. Jesus was going to die. He was really going to die. He wasn't going to appear to die. Death for him was not different because he is God from God and light from light. It was to be real death. He didn't have the luxury of knowing, "Oh, I will rise again," deep down inside him. He knew it in his head, but his heart had got him on his knees and he had pleaded with the Father, "Take this cup from me if it is possible." And the sweat had dropped from his brow like blood. He was frightened. It is because Jesus feared to die that he can take us through our deaths. Not only the deaths at the end of our lives, but those little deaths that we experience all the time. The loss of a job, the loss of a loved one, the loss of an idea, the loss of things that I intended to do. All those things. Jesus walked there from the donkey to the cross. And in a sense, he took that donkey with him. For no other donkey is as well known and praised in all the world than the donkey that took Jesus in to the holy city of Jerusalem. And you too, my dear donkeys, this is the only time I get to call my congregation donkeys. You too, my dear donkeys, you take Jesus, and then he leads you in this holy week to Easter, through death, to life, through suffering, to resurrection. So plod on with him faithfully this week, my dears, and rejoice with him next Sunday. Amen.
Amen.